Sure, yeah.
Welcome to episode 83 of Kyperian Commentary. I have with me Jamie Souls, an old friend of mine. Jamie, it looks like we get a chance to meet each other once every 3 years. That's been the pattern, right?
That's generally been the pattern.
We see each other at council. And for anyone tuning in here, you may think that Kyperian has completely internationalized our work because last week I interviewed British author Alistair Roberts, and now I'm interviewing a Canadian musician, Jamie Souls, being interviewed by yours truly, Brazilian Yuri Brito. This is a wonderful soccer team, or whatever we may call it.
United Nations, what we got.
Exactly. Jamie, great to have you here, my brother.
Well, thank you so kindly for having me.
You have been just a real delight in my life, the life of my children. And we want to begin the conversation here just by you introducing us a tune to a hymn. Is that right?
It's actually to a psalm.
Okay.
We've been working away at trying to learn the Psalms in our church. It's been a long-term project, and I feel like we've got some fairly fresh legs under us recently. I've been making much use of a book called the Book of Praise. The Canadian Reformed churches have this one. I think Jim Jordan was a big fan of this book.
Yes.
It has all the Genevan tunes in it, and so it's all the Genevans. Yeah. And so everything, all the words, everything like that is all here, just laid out like this.
Yeah.
Now, I've been working with this long enough to know that a lot of the Genevans don't rest easy on modern ears. Mm-hmm. And so I asked for and gained permission from the copyright holders of this book to write my own tunes to their poetry. And I've been at that for 3 or 4 years now. I've got probably 70 or 75 of them done.
Oh, that's lovely, man.
I have so much material that needs to get recorded eventually.
I love what I love, Jim. I love the poetry of the Genevan Psalms.
It's really good.
It is
really good now.
Yeah, and for those who are listening here may not be familiar with some of the Genevan tunes. You probably sung Psalm 2, which is one of the great classics, a great classic at our church. Mm-hmm. And there's just some real beautiful Psalm 66, another beautiful one. But Jamie, what do you have in mind there?
Well, what I have here is is my own version of Psalm 41.
Okay.
The Cantus Christi has been the hymn book in our midst, the Psalm and hymn book, and I've been supplementing it with my own Psalms for years and years. Well, 41 isn't covered in the original Cantus. I understand it is now. Mm-hmm. But whatever the case might be, I have been filling in some of those gaps, making tunes off of the poetry in the Book of Praise. Mm-hmm. So here's one that my congregation has been delighting in for the last 3 weeks. We'll get it socked into our bones, and then it'll work, I think. Okay, Psalm 41.
How blessed is he who cares about the poor. Him will the Lord defend. In times of trouble, God keeps him secure. Blessed is he in the land. His enemies demand his life in vain. Though he be near death's door, God will sustain him on his bed of pain, and him to health restore. I said, O Lord, be merciful to me. Heal me, for I have sinned. See how my enemies maliciously wait for my life to end. Whoever visits me is not sincere, but in his spite-filled heart, he spins false tales for everyone to hear as soon as he departs. My enemies with hate, fierce and grim, all whisper in disdain. Some deadly sickness has its grip on him. He will wishes I were dead. But you, oh Lord, be merciful to me. You see justice done. By this I know that you are pleased with me. My haters have not won. I will forever in your presence dwell. By you upheld again. Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel. From age to age, amen.
That was lovely, Jamie. And the beauty of that is you covered all 13 verses of Psalm 41. I was following the text here, and you kept the rhythm of it fit really well the words of the psalm itself, the song. And that takes a certain level of skill. I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of composers, people who try to put, tunes into psalms. And sometimes that's kind of the missing element, isn't it? You can't be overly enthusiastic about a lament. There's a way in which you treat a psalm.
Right.
And,
yes. You
that
got
was
to treat
great.
it right. See, this one, there's all kinds of smell tests that you can do with your song. I got a song like this. It was a long time before I introduced this one to our church, but when I started playing it and all the little girls started dancing, oh, we were in business. we were in business. Yes.
That's fantastic. Did you grow up in a musical family, Jamie?
I didn't really. Well, I guess we weren't unmusical. We sang. We liked to sing. We didn't sing a whole lot together, but almost everybody could carry a tune.
Yeah.
I was on the younger end of the family, and all the music seemed to pool in the younger end of the family. So for creativity or anything like that.
So when did you fall in love with church music, for example? Because I know you have a little bit of a background in, I got a good classic rock. Was there a time when you just had this church music conversion experience?
No, I wouldn't say that's the case. I grew up with hymns. I grew up singing hymns. I know hundreds of those.
What was your your church background?
Evangelical Free Church is where I spent most of my growing up years.
Okay.
Which had a hymnal that there was lots of good hymns in there and lots of really terrible ones. So I learned them all. I didn't learn them all. I learned a whole lot of them.
Like a good musician. My friend Dustin Messer says that you can't appreciate great music unless you've played the worst of them.
Yes, I hear him.
And then you started to have a lot of kids, and I assume, like in so many cases, for me at a lesser musical status, but in many cases, sometimes fathers who are musicians who are inclined to think in a certain way, covenantally, for example, we want to pass on music to our children. So as you started to have children, was that the impetus to begin writing your own music for children?
Certainly for the Bible story songs, that was the case.
The Bible
I remember being at the point, I'd already been a singer-songwriter for a long time. I'd already gone through my rock band phase, and I was not in a rock band anymore, but I got this growing band in my house. They're all little. And and I knew and understood that it was my task before God. I needed to teach these kids the scriptures. I needed to be able to do that. And so we would read the Bible to our kids. Well, of course, if your oldest is like 5 and you got 4 kids, you read it to them, and an exceptional kid will pick it up well enough to be able to say something back to you, but mostly not. Mm-hmm. Mostly not when they're in that age. And it just occurred to me one day, it's almost occurred to me, it felt like out of the blue. It probably wasn't. God works in all kinds of wonderful ways. Yes, he does. It occurred to me one day, why don't you try and sing a Bible story? Why don't you try and do that? And so I did. I was working for the city water department just then, driving a little truck around. I stopped the truck. And I sat there and I thought for a minute, and I thought, let's see, what would be a good one to work with? How about this? Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve.
You got to play that, because I want to show that to my daughter when she gets back. Remind me, that's one of our favorite ones here.
Is it? That was my first. That was the
your
first.
All right, wow.
Well, the first one of the kids' music era. Yes.
Okay, I remember that.
All right.
That's the way the
Well,
story
here it
goes.
is. I went home and I played this to my kids, and then they could tell me about Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
They couldn't tell me about it yesterday.
I know, right?
Like so. Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve, the very first people that the world's ever seen. Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve, were made in the image of God. Now Adam, he was the first one around. God made him from the dust of the ground. He gave him a job and he gave him his life, but he didn't get a wife. Aww, now it wasn't good for Adam to be all alone in the garden, you see. So God put Adam in a real deep sleep. He didn't even need to count sheep. God took a rib from Adam's side. He formed it real nice and he made him a bride. When Adam awoke, he was real pleased. Woo! That's how the Lord made Eve. Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve, the very first people that the world's ever seen. Adam and Eve, Adam and Eve, were made in the image of, made in the image of, made in the image of God.
What I love about that little piece there is it's just this really genuine and childlike introduction to the garden event. And I think that's the kind of substantive, robust, but very, freshly given to children. That's the memorization dimension of it. Gives them a whole unique perspective into the story, which frames the whole of biblical history. And I was always intrigued by some of the music that you put together, the based on biblical stories, because you touched on the kinds of biblical stories that no evangelical musician to children will touch. Can you think of a couple of them that would scare away Mrs. Smith in Sunday school lesson?
Well, that's most of my repertoire. There's so much stuff that the evangelical world in which I grew up, we don't know those stories. There's a lot of them we don't know. If we grew up with the Sunday school papers, which was better than nothing,
mm-hmm.
but you still wound up missing JL, and you wound up missing all these ones like that. This lady who is such a wonderful foreshadowing of Mary to come, so
you're missing fundamental pieces of the
right.
Of the story, of the Adamic connections there. One of the things that comes to mind when I chat with you, and as I think about your ministry along the years, is what you have instilled in your children is a sense of corporate identity with the narratives of the Bible. Have you seen that sort of shape their humanity and shape their Christianity over the years as you've seen your big tribe sort of grow up? What's been your experience?
My experience along those lines has been that, I can watch with my oldest daughters in particular. I'm watching this because they're raising their own kids now, and it really looks, they've got a deep foundation in the scriptures through this. that they're really able to pass on. It's less so among my younger kids. That may have been a parental failure in that, or it may have just been the way things work when you're raising a large tribe of kids. This may bend in a little bit of a different direction if I talk along about this, Yuri, but I think you might find this useful and helpful.
No, please do.
When my big kids were little, I was really their only musical influence for quite a long time. We weren't listening to the radio. We weren't listening to CDs. We weren't. We didn't have a whole lot of that stuff going, but I was furiously writing songs and saying, "Hey kids, listen to this," and they were, "This is great." And so my big kids had a long time with Dad's music.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, big kids grow up, right? They get taller, they get bigger. Things change in their physical situations, in their psyche, and you don't want to squash big kid in order to accommodate little kid, right? You want your big kids to grow up healthy and not scrunched, and so you start taking the traces off that you had on when they were little. Well, in my world, that music that my big kids had such a long time with changed when particularly when my oldest son got an iPad or an iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay. When that happened, things changed in my world. And the reason they changed is because this is something that I've noticed it really does happen. Little kids in a big household, they're not watching Dad for cues on how to proceed forward. They're watching Big Brother for cues on how to proceed forward. Whatever's on what he's listening to, he thinks it's cool, and so he shares it with his little siblings.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And by the time we got down to my youngest son, I had to teach him. I had to teach him my own songs because they weren't native to him.
Yeah.
Because he was young enough that a whole bunch of other music was coming into our world via his older siblings. And so anyways, my younger kids, it's not as native a soil. It's all in there. They've heard these songs. They've heard them many times. They've sung them when they were little, when we used to sing as a family on stage years ago. And I'm sure that it'll bear good fruit over time, but it's just not the same with my younger ones than it is with my older ones.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about just as a curiosity, there's a lot of dads that listen and watch Kuyperian and read our articles. We talk a lot about fatherhood, and I've done a lot of work in fatherhood over the years. Talk about just some of those early habits you had in your young parenting days in the home. What did you guys sing in the morning? What would you say? What would be a word of encouragement to dads who are just like, I can't sing, Jamie. I can't sing. Where would you lead them? Because we know you and I are testaments of the fundamental fruitfulness of this exercise. Our churches and our children and even our spouses they glean from it. What would you say?
Well, in terms of what we did a lot of reading with our kids. We did a lot of reading the Bible. We did a lot of singing these songs. If you're a dad and you can't sing, well, I wrote a whole bunch of them. Listen to my songs. They can help.
Yeah,
they can help. But to be able to spend time doing that with your kids, for me, it will have been a different story than it will be for you, because I wrote this stuff and I'm all excited about it, and my kids are all excited about it. because hey, Dad wrote this cool song.
Right.
Yeah, who else ever gets to sing about so may all your enemies perish?
Let the righteous shine like
That's
the
cool.
sun. Yeah, I love that. That's great. The process of writing music is a really fascinating one to me. I have very, very little experience at it. You've been doing it for a long time. How many CDs do you have, Jamie?
I'm working on number 21 right now.
Number 21, my goodness. So if people want to listen to your stuff, where should they go to get your CDs and get the most amount of money to you rather than some other?
Go to my website, www.soulmusic, solmusic.ca. Think Canada.ca.
All right, perfect. We'll
Okay.
make sure to link that after this.
Yeah,
our
link that afterward. I can be listened to on Spotify. I got a whole bunch of my stuff on there.
Yes.
It doesn't make me a whole lot of money that way, but my music does get out, and that's a good thing. I do want to be able to continue to make more music. You know, I've been connected with a group called Patreon for the last year and a half. That's been a big support in being able to build the album I've just built. So that's a way to continue to fund me to make more, and I've got lots more to make.
Well, and you have I was talking about the production of music itself. You've been working through Psalms of Ascent. So is there a method to your musical madness?
Probably not.
I don't care what it is or what it isn't. Just keep producing, Jamie Souls. I'm so grateful for your work, brother. Well,
the album that I'm on right now, I've been waiting on for a few years. It's on the character of Jacob.
Oh, wow.
So it'll be, I got 15 songs on it. I'm almost done the process. I hope, Lord willing, to have this out by the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this one. Jacob's he's my guy. I've been living Jacob for a long time. I love that guy and his stories.
Yeah. And especially if, I assume both of us have kind of been fed at the JBJ well, and so we've learned how to think of Jacob in very fresh and beautiful ways. Sing something from that album if you
sure,
a good recollection.
Sure.
Of that.
Let me do one called Feel My Hands.
Oh.
This is, of course, Jacob right at the point where the deception of Isaac is about to take place. And, this fellow, he's not a young fellow any longer.
Right.
He's 77 years old,
mm-hmm.
Jacob is.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom had this idea about how are we going to get Isaac to at least say the words. I know he doesn't want to bless you, but he's got to. What are we going to do? And so this is her plan. Let's see if we can get the right key. That's too low. Okay. I'd like to be able to sit in such a way where you can see my guitar. Let me just adjust a little bit. A little bit more. Okay. Feel my hands.
I've got some serious misgivings, Mother dear, Mother dear. I might procure a curse and not a blessing. This I fear, this I fear. And I know we're in a tight spot, no mistaking. After all these years, it all comes down to this. So I'll put on the best garments of my brother, my mother, I'll do this. Here are those 2 goats for which you asked me. Skin them here, skin them here. Prepare the food and make it good, my mother. Never fear, I am troubled that my smooth skin will betray, but I thank the Lord that he saws like a goat. May the skin upon my hand serve to save me, conceal me with a coat. I and me saw your firstborn. Here I am, here I am. I and me saw your firstborn. Here I am. I am here for your blessing. I have waited all these years. Feel my hands. Feel my hands. You asked me how I made it back so quickly. Now the Lord your God has granted me success. You're concerned today, I seem to sound like Jacob. Feel my hands, don't distress. I can't tell you how I hate so to deceive you, but you wouldn't have it any other way. I'll draw near to you and kiss you, my Father, hear the words you say. I am Esau, your firstborn. Here I am, here I am. I am Esau, your firstborn. Here I am. I am here for your blessing. I have waited all these years. Feel my hands. Feel my hands. I am Esau. I am Esau, your firstborn. I am here for your blessing. I have waited all these years. Feel my hands. Feel my hands.
That's a really moving piece of music there. Really moving piece of music. I love it. I'm looking forward to, when is that coming out? You said by the end of the summer?
End of the summer, I should have it out. It'll be titled An Old Song That You Have Known in the Past, Supplanter.
Supplanter. Very, very good. Are there, you say their 21st CD, is there a CD that you've done in the past that you have received probably the most request for singing? Is there something that kind of stands out of this marathon of work you've done?
Well, certainly in terms of every year, my bestseller is The Way My Story Goes.
Right. Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah.
That's very consistent.
Yeah.
Good Advice is right close to it.
Yeah. Wells.
You know, I've clearly been able to touch the lives of a lot of different people in a lot of different ways through a lot of different songs. Because when I ask, which I've done this periodically, I ask online, what's your favorite Jamie Souls album? It's all over my repertoire are the answers. All over my repertoire. So I can't think of an album that didn't make that list on somebody's list.
That's great. Well, for the record, my favorite is Wells, and I think one of the most lovely parts about that CD is the song "Well, Well, Well," and I think it's the way you, just no pun intended, but the way you marry the concept of wedding and well in this sort of beautiful biblical tapestry. To me, it was it's one of those things where you have this theological concept of what is true, that kind of biblical connection. But then, as you and I have experienced, when you put it into music, it adds an additional level of sentiment and meaning to it that in some ways crystallizes it. It makes the entire story concrete. And the way I think about it is when the people of Israel, they're being asked, sing us a song from your land. And you have that song, which I want you to close with that, if you remember. I think it's 137.
137.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like
to recall. But that, I think, is the heart of the kind of work you do. You're crystallizing biblical ideas that sometimes, if you're reading it without the emotional ethos of the Bible, it becomes abstract. But suddenly you connect the language to music, or the connection with Jacob and Esau, and it's almost like you have this explosion of this. The worlds come together, music and words, and they formulate this beautiful, concrete example the Bible intends it. Jim Jordan always says that that when God spoke, he sung the world into existence. It's kind of hard to imagine a God who wrote things, gave us his inspired word not to be sung. And I think this is what so much of the evangelical world misses, when they fail to add this robustness to the Christian faith, when they don't put the Psalms into music, for example. They're missing this entire repertoire, and in some ways they're missing the very essence of who we are as a people, worshiping beings, people who sing God's words so the world can hear and kneel before our God. Anyway, I'm so appreciative of your ministry, Jamie, and I want to thank you for your work, and I will do the best I can to make your music known, because I think it can, as it already has, changed the hearts of a lot of parents and children too. That's the thing too. You've done a lot of work for children, but a lot of the music you intend for children, perhaps, it gains a great audience with us in our 40s, and that's been the real blessing, that the Word of God has always constantly been in my heart. When I'm going to work, I got some Jamie Souls music playing in the background, and the same music that my children love, the same music that I love as well, put together. So thank you, brother.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You want 137?
137, if you will.
Okay. I think I might have to step out of the room and get a guitar that's tuned right. Just hold on a second.
Ooh, fantastic.
It'll take me half a moment.
I can wait. Absolutely.
Half a moment. Entertain people while I'm away. Sing or something.
All right, while Jamie gets his tuned guitar, I want to just sing a little song here that I wrote just recently. It's a Jewish melody, and it goes like this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Love him with all your heart, your soul, and all your mind. Fully teach his laws to your children in your house. Happy you shall be as your grain and wine abound. Verse 3. Enter his good land, which he swore to Abraham. Do what is right and good, that it may go well with you. Here's my favorite line. Yahweh is the Lord, Pharaoh's army he subdued. Israel's great king, he shall rule from shore to shore. It's my version.
Awesome, Yuri.
Jamie.
That was great.
All right, my friend, close us out. Jamie Souls playing Psalm 137.
such a long way from our homeland by the rivers of Babylon. There we sat down and we wept when we remembered Zion. There we hung our harps in sorrow. There our captors bid us sing, saying, give a song of Zion, put a smile on and sing. How shall we now sing the Lord's song in a land beyond the promise? If I lose you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget. If I fail now to remember you, let my tongue be unemployed. If I do not place Jerusalem high above my chief joy. Lord, you saw them, Lord, you heard them when Jerusalem fell. How they cried for its destruction like their father in hell. Blessed be the one who rids you of your children, of your future. Blessed be the one who pays you in the way you deserve. Oh, child of mighty Babylon, whose destruction is for certain. Blessed be the one who pays you in the way you deserve.
Lovely. One of my 10 favorites of Jamie Souls is that great sense of longing to return home. Jamie Souls, for our Kuyperian audience, I'll make sure we put the link to his music available. I encourage you, parents, please get a hold of Jamie's music, not only as a way of supporting a Christian artist who cares about the biblical text, but also as a way of inculcating the importance of music shaped by the scriptural language for our children and our children's children. Jamie, thanks for joining us, Kuyperian brother.
Oh, you're very welcome, Yuri. Thanks for the invite.